Hey, it's Afzal here. Before we get to the video, I wanted to take a few seconds of your time to introduce you to something exciting that I'm working on. I wanted to introduce you to an app that I'm launching in the coming weeks. It's focused on helping you secure offers at top investment banks, consulting firms, and beyond by connecting you with mentors at companies like Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, PwC, and so on. Do check it out if you're interested at simply.io and register your interest to get notified when we officially launch. Now let's get back to the video. So to kick off, it would be great if you could just give a bit of background to, what you're doing, who you are, who is Abdul Latif Ismail.
Yeah, of course. So currently I work at a hedge advisor called Validus Risk Management. So I've been there for a year now. And before that, I was a market risk analyst at Deutsche. So what we do is basically advise alternative asset managers on how to manage their market risk. So if you see being an internal market risk analyst and then going and taking that and selling it as a product, essentially. So that was the smooth transition that I had from Deutsche to Validus. I studied mechanical engineering as an undergrad at UCL, and then I did the risk management and financial engineering course at Imperial as a master's. And yeah, so basically I joined the grad program at Deutsche, stayed there for 4 years, and then made my transition into a client-facing-ish market risk role, essentially.
Yeah. And we'll go into detail about that and why you decided to transition in a moment. But if I take it a bit back in terms of your childhood and your upbringing, what type of childhood did you have? Did you have like a very busy household, or were your parents focused on you being a certain profession? Were they adamant on you doing well in your studies, or what was growing up like?
Yeah, busy household, I wouldn't say that. I've got two younger brothers. So obviously, being the older of the three, parents are a bit more like, you have to pave the way.
Yeah.
The general older child talk that you get, right? Like, you do well, your brothers will do well too. Like, it's like, good, no pressure, right? Like, so in that sense, I guess, having that foundation right from the beginning, I've thrived in pressure then, if you know what I mean. It's just because it's just been there right from the beginning. I've always played sports. I've always, taken competition and pressure in a very, positive way.
Mm-hmm.
So I usually thrive off of the competition and pressure. So that's just me. Like, if I was to do exams, I would probably, and this is not any advice to anyone, but I would leave it to the last minute.
Yeah.
Right. So the whole year I'll just focus on coursework, and then the final stretch, yeah, exactly. And I liked that pressure, and I felt I just performed better. If I did it throughout the year, I wouldn't have probably done as well in my exams as I did by, the technique that I follow.
Yeah.
But yeah, in terms of busy household, not too bad. Went to a state school.
Which school did you go to?
So I went to Norrington Boys School.
Okay.
For GCSEs and GCSEs, right? And then after that, for my A levels, I went to Valentine's High School.
That's in East London.
Yeah. So I
Yeah.
brought up in East London.
Yeah.
Exactly. So
Got it. How was
um,
that? How was that? Give us an insight into that. What was growing up in, a state school in East London? What was that like? What were your peers, your friends? Because getting into UCL is a great university. And like I went to a state school myself, and not everyone does well from a state school background. A lot of people do, but what was your experience like?
So my experience was, going from Norrington. So I'll start with Norrington, right? Over there, your baseline was very, very low.
Yeah.
So to be the best in your class was like, it wasn't difficult, right? You could just be the best, because obviously coming from a state school and specifically in a particular area, you have to understand the people around you have other stuff going on in the background.
Yeah.
The main priority isn't necessarily school. And that's not by any fault of their own, right? So I guess the benchmark was always very low. So to outperform your class wasn't very, very difficult, right? And then obviously my parents saw a bit of complacency come in. So then, that's when the tutoring element starts coming into the whole environment, right?
Yeah.
And to be fair, if I didn't have the tutoring element, I probably wouldn't have, chosen the path that I did, because I wouldn't have been aware of the opportunities out there.
Interesting.
And I've actually had this discussion with a few friends. Like, basically, growing up in a very, very Asian household with, a particular set of friends, you're only exposed to a limited number of careers. Like, doctor. You've got, you've got doctor, dentist, pilot, engineer. You've got very basic careers, and then you start talking to people, and the first time I'd heard of, say, actuarial science was when I was about 15 or 16. Probably earlier than most, but still, it was like, oh crap, okay, I have this additional avenue that I can actually check. So from my background, it was very limited in the scope, but I always knew I liked maths, right? So it was like, okay, I'm going to definitely focus on maths. I completely dropped English. Like, if I could have dropped it before GCSE, I would have, but just not allowed. But I heavily focused on maths. So I did maths, further maths, and physics for my A-levels as well. So super math heavy.
Yeah. So that was I guess it was a natural transition going into choosing mechanical engineering. Was it mechanical?
Yeah, mechanical.
Mechanical engineering
Exactly.
at
It was
UCL.
mechanical.
So you decided to do mechanical engineering, and that was at UCL. What was your experience at UCL like?
I really, really enjoyed it. I mean, the course in itself was difficult, right? And with the faculty as well, like, there was a lot of external elements that made it difficult.
Interesting.
But because the whole group, the whole cohort was actually very, collaborative, and literally, like, if one person did something, everyone had an idea of how to approach it. Like, that's how everyone worked. Like, we would share ideas. Nice. No one in the year group was actually secluded, so to speak.
That's nice.
So, and it made it really, really fun.
Yeah.
Because
sorry. Yeah.
Go for it.
I was just gonna say, because you hear, like, I did econ at Queen Mary, and you hear, like, at some other unis, the environment is just extremely competitive. People hide answers from you, coursework, etc.
Exactly.
It's nice to have that collaborative culture that you talk about.
Massively. And I think the biggest thing was that if I was to get a first, everyone else could also get a first. There wasn't a bell-shaped curve of the results or anything. It's just you score a raw mark, you get that result. There's no like, okay, I have to get 70, but also I have to be in the top 10% to actually get a first.
Exactly.
The bell-shaped curve happened naturally. But there wasn't the element that people were going out of the way to actually, reduce people's marks or anything. Which was great.
Yeah, no, exactly. So I typically ask people, going into uni, did you have a game plan? And looking at your LinkedIn, I think you did have a game plan, because you've got lots of experience in terms of, you did some work experience at Citigroup, you were on various different societies, different roles in university. What was your approach entering uni? Were you like, I need to do this, this, and this in order to help me increase my chances of securing jobs, or what was the thought process?
So for me, I think for the first year, and I think my game plan was actually awful going into the first year.
Okay.
If I look back at it, I was really focused on, no, I need to get a first. Like, and obviously, that was ingrained from school, right? Like, oh yeah, I have to get top marks.
Yeah.
Nothing else matters, top marks.
Which is fair.
It's fair, but then if I was to take a step back, if I had a 2-1 and, got as much out of the university experience as possible
Yeah.
would have been, I guess, a more rounded experience overall than just going in and being like, yeah, no, I have to get a first.
Yeah.
I've been fortunate that I managed to secure a job by the end of it.
Yeah.
But I know some people that went the same route as I did and weren't able to secure a job right away. So, I guess, you speak about securing spring weeks, for example.
Yeah.
I didn't even apply for spring weeks.
Mm.
First year, I did 0 applications. I was just like, book.
Yeah.
Like that was it. Like, it was really just focusing on the books. And it was like, okay, I did find first term a lot more difficult than, I did in school, just because it was the first time I had to do coursework again.
Yeah.
I had not done coursework at, in sixth form because maths, physics, they were just exams. And so it was like, okay, crap, now I have to actually write reports and do this and do that. And, this counts towards a grade. But then I soon realized that, okay, it's a very small percentage. And even if that bit doesn't go well, just make up for it in the exams.
Yeah.
And you really, I guess, need to focus on, if we're talking about just university, you need to focus on what you do better at. And really make that go the extra mile. And there's some things that you just won't be good at.
Yeah.
No one's good at everything, right? Then maybe, just do enough in that, but don't, just really, really stress yourself out, because other things will then take a, hit as well.
Yeah.
So
did you, when you're in uni, obviously in your first year, second year, it's kind of like, it's a random guess, like, oh, you don't really know what you want to be or what field you truly want to work in, which division, which role exactly. So what was your approach to, deciding where to apply? Or was it like a scattergun approach, apply everywhere?
Yeah, so I had applied for engineering. And so that was in the second year, that was my main, I'm going to apply for engineering. I was on the Bachelor of Engineering program, and I was like, okay, you know what? I'm going to convert to the 4-year course, because I had fun the first year. So I was like, let me just do it. I'm potentially considering a PhD.
Oh, wow. Nice.
At the end, like at the beginning of second year, I was like, yeah, you know what? Might consider doing that. And I was actually thinking, okay, let's do the 4-year course, and then we'll see how it actually goes on.
Yeah.
So I'd spoken to the head of mechanical engineering and so on. Okay, how do I get onto the 4-year course? So I applied for Airbus and, a few other places, and I went to the interview for Airbus in Bristol. So just outside of Bristol in Filton.
Okay.
Great place, great people, but I just did not see myself living there. Having been brought up in East London for basically my whole life, going to such a remote place was like, crap, where am I getting myself into? And then I was like, all right, let's reevaluate. Let's take a step back. What do I want to do? And then I was like, okay, let's look at banking. So luckily, I've been very, very fortunate. One of my dad's friends worked at Citi.
Oh, nice.
So I was able to get a work experience. Like you go in 2 weeks and you shadow people, and so I was able to get that. What was it? Just before going into uni. So as soon as I finished my A levels.
Oh yeah.
So I was able to actually do that, and I spent, I think it was about 2-3 weeks at that point. And I managed to, see what people did there. It was back office work, but still it was like, okay, you know what? I prefer this to that. Like I was able to actually make that comparison there and then.
Yeah.
So then I was like, okay, no, engineering is not for me.
Yeah.
Engineering work is for me, but the lifestyle of engineering isn't. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
And obviously, like the lifestyle is just as important as the job itself.
True.
If that makes sense. Like if I don't like where I'm living, where I'm working, although the work is fine and it's great, but they both will then just cancel out, and you'll just struggle.
You need to find the right balance. But
exactly.
as you say, it's super important to get that insight, especially the sooner you do it, the better, because it's experience on your CV, and that helps when you're applying later on and all of that.
Exactly. And tells your story.
Exactly.
At the end of the day, it's your story, right?
Exactly. That's one thing I say a lot to a lot of the students and graduates. It's like, you can graduate with a first, but if your CV is empty, no one's going to invite you for an interview, right?
Exactly, because it's like everyone else has a first as well, or
Yeah,
everyone as soon as you have a 2-1,
yeah,
first and a 2-1 are
goes
comparable
out the
playing
window.
field.
Exactly, exactly. In uni, what were your close friends or your circle of friends like in terms of applying? Were they all applying to banking? Were some doing consulting, actuarial, engineering?
Yeah, so a lot of my friends,
Mm,
so from the engineering batch, went into engineering as well.
got it.
So a lot of them, yeah. So one of my closest friends works for TFL now.
All
So
right.
yeah, he was set. Like he loves cars. I've never been into cars. I just like the math behind engineering
Yeah, yeah,
because I like the mechanics modules at A levels. I was like, okay, I can see myself studying this for 4 years,
yeah.
and I enjoyed studying the math of engineering. Like it was really really fun,
Mm,
and yeah, just the problem solving aspect was really interesting.
mm, mm,
But yeah, this guy, he loved engineering with a passion, hands
yeah.
down. I was like, he's going to be a much better engineer than I would ever be. And yeah, I saw him, and yeah, he went into engineering, and a lot of the other guys did. Many went into consulting, so the likes of Deloitte.
Yep.
Some went into the AI side, and really picked up on the data science and machine learning side of things.
Yeah.
Data analyst, data analytics. Risk was a big one. So one of my
Yeah.
friends actually continued, and we did the masters at Imperial together as well.
Mm,
So yeah, and he went into Deloitte, but doing risk at
got
Deloitte.
it.
So yeah,
Interesting.
very, 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 very like some went into IBD.
Yeah.
Sales and trading was another less so than the engineering and consulting though.
Oh,
At
interesting.
least from the numbers that I know.
Yeah.
Obviously, like
Well, I guess it is a engineering course, right? Like most of
yeah,
it.
exactly.
You touched on you. So then, after you did your UCL undergrad, you went and did your masters at Imperial.
Yeah,
Um, and that wasn't in anything to do with mechanical engineering for the most part. Or
no.
what did it? It was risk. What led you to move away from pure engineering and go and focus on risk? Was that purely career focused?
So that was, yeah, definitely very career focused. I was like, okay, look, I like numbers. I want to stay in a mathematical field.
Yeah.
What's the closest thing that I can stay in London and actually do? It was consulting or banking.
Mm.
And I was like, okay, you know what? I've done banking before. I enjoyed it. Like, the 2-3 weeks at City, I enjoyed it. Let me give it a shot.
Yeah.
And then I started reading into it. So in my third year, I did 2 internships. So very short stints. So I did Amplify Trading.
Yeah.
And I did the corporate finance at Hybrid. So that's a boutique focused on the mid cap, small cap companies.
Got it.
So it's a brokerage,
And that's
or they're
interesting.
brokers rather.
That's interesting. So a hybrid and is on the corporate finance side, and then Amplify Trading is in the
Yeah.
market side. Um,
So
how did you
yeah.
find that?
So I enjoyed both.
Yeah.
They both have their own nuances, and obviously by that point I was like, okay, I want to go into banking. Which side do I want to go into? Right? Do I want to go
Yeah.
corporate finance side, or do I want to go into the market side of things?
Yeah.
So they both are very interesting,
Yep.
but I guess, with a sales and trading type role, or with a markets focused role,
Mm.
it's intense, it's dynamic, and it's very like, that you only have to do things within a certain time period.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
You only, like, markets are open between this and this, and everything around it is just faff, so to
Yeah.
speak. Like, everything you do around it is just research, and you're just like, okay, how do I stay ahead of the curve?
Mm-hmm.
But intense work is between those hours.
Yeah.
Corporate finance is a bit different. It's more like, okay, you can have things going on. It's project after project. You're really, focusing, and you're really thinking about how do things work, or how do I actually come up with assumptions, and how do I predict what could happen?
Yeah.
If I put it like that. And it's very, in my opinion, is very, okay, you have to justify your opinions, and you have to justify why you think something is going to happen. And
Yeah.
everyone's opinion is different,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
So I wanted to go in something that's more fact-based rather than opinion-based.
Yeah.
So that's why I was like, okay, markets, and that used a bit more of my numerical aspect, so to speak. And I was like, okay, want to see options, want to see this. Obviously, financial crisis happened. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
crazy products. Obviously, none of that happens anymore. So if anyone is watching and thinks that happens, none of it does.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and even the products are a lot more simple, right? So you learn all this option theory and stuff, but once you know how to price an option, the banks already know how to price it. They've got the engines there. You
Yeah.
don't really utilize much of it.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, and going back to some conversations I've had with friends, it's like coming out of uni, I was smarter than I am now. I
Mm.
have more salve in terms of how I work, and I know how to do things faster,
Mm.
and I know how to approach people better when you're working in a working environment, because obviously if you're working with an MD closely, you need to be able to, answer a question in a certain way. But if you're working with a friend at uni, you can answer it however you like.
Yeah.
So yeah, you just become a bit savvier when you work. And
Interesting.
yeah, but you're definitely not smarter than leaving uni or even, during uni. I think that's the pinnacle of how smart you become.
Interesting. Fair enough. Fair enough. I guess you just end up going into different silos and focusing on different niches, right?
Yeah.
Every role.
And
Yeah.
you're not necessarily, because processes are so set, you're not really reinventing the wheel until or unless like you're in a startup or you're really coming up with something new. If you
Mm.
get what I mean, like in a
Yeah.
bank, if you want to do something new, and from my experience at DB, if I wanted to do something, right? So, for example, we used a lot of Python in our team,
Yeah.
but even if you're using Python in your team,
Mm.
there is senior management that will start thinking, okay, crap, how do we, make this into a process? How do we not change too much such that when the next person was to come in
Yeah.
and they can't pick it up, like we need to do it such that there's a lot of continuity,
Yeah.
and they're right by their own way, right? Because
Yeah.
they're running a business. They need to know, how do we continue with this? If this one person is changing the wheel and they decide to leave tomorrow,
Yeah.
we're screwed. Like, what do we do?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of these things that go on behind the scenes that, then you start realizing it's like, okay, crap, these places are great to work for. They're great to have on your CV.
But
But if you really want to change or reinvent the wheel, you can't necessarily do that at a big place unless you're in a specific type of role that's, paid to do that.
yeah. So I guess what you're saying to anyone watching is, if I paraphrase slightly, it's kind of like, if you're at a big organization, it's a lot slow moving. There's less impact and change that you can have compared to working at a smaller, more agile organization.
Yeah. Or even, I guess you could even talk about just, it's very bureaucratic. You
Yeah.
have to go through so many hurdles and loops. The hoops that you have to jump to just get through, just to get something approved,
Mm.
are too many.
Yeah.
So, as I said, Python, right? If you could improve, say, many Excel processes and bring in place one Python script that does, say, these 5 Excel spreadsheets very,
Mm.
very quickly, people will appreciate that.
Yeah.
You might even start influencing people to actually start using
Mm.
Python,
Yeah.
but it's going to be a lot more difficult than if it was a smaller firm, as you said.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's that whole
That,
aspect to it.
okay, cool. So I guess part of that is probably the reason why you decided to move on from Deutsche Bank to your current position. And you've been in that
Yeah,
role for a year now at
yeah,
Validas Risk Management. Before we
yeah.
get into Validas, am I saying it right? Validas?
Validus.
Validus, got it.
Yeah,
Before we get into Validus, you spent 4 years, just over 4 years at Deutsche Bank.
yeah,
Other than the fact that, it's a big organization, it can, there's a lot of reasons for wanting to join a smaller organization.
yeah.
What are the challenges or what are the reasons came into play regarding your move into a smaller firm? and
I
a more
think it was the role. For me, ultimately, the organization means a lot, but I think the role is what really wins. Because if I'm doing this day in, day out, I have to enjoy that.
yeah,
As compared to, say, the organization. Like, organization is always secondary for me.
yeah, fair.
So for me, when I was looking at Validus, so I got approached by a recruiter and, got the job spec. I was like, okay, job specs always look better than they usually are,
Yeah,
FYI. Just because people put these fancy terms in there to attract you.
yeah.
And this is for anyone listening. Yeah, job specs are usually going to be 10 times, if not 100 times better than what the role generally requires.
It's a
And then
marketing,
it's like,
it's
okay,
a marketing poster, right?
yeah, exactly. It's that picture where you see 10 people sitting around a table smiling. And it's like, yeah, meetings usually don't happen like that.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, it's total marketing, right? As you said. And so then it was like, okay, let me have that conversation. And I was I was always wanting to move into a client-facing role. I wanted to be in front of people. I like speaking.
yeah,
I like, just seeing what people want and then trying to help from that. I was doing that at DB, but more internal focus.
fair.
But Validus was, no, we're going, meeting a client. What does the client want? And
Yeah.
we will provide a solution to what they need.
Mm.
And it was using the skills that I built up at Deutsche,
Yeah.
full on market risk. The products were a lot more simpler in terms of the instruments that we use.
At Deutsche, it was simpler. Or
No, at Validus,
Valid,
because
simpler. Got it.
alternative asset industry uses a lot less, say, less options, right? You use
Yeah, yeah.
binary options, this, that, and the other at DB,
Mm.
but didn't see much of that. See a lot of forwards, see a lot of options. That was the suite of products that we would generally see,
Got it.
or that we generally see. So in that sense, it was a very eye-opening experience where you actually get to see how people think about the risk and
Yeah.
how different people view it, because ultimately the people that we're talking to know their stuff really well,
Yeah.
but they want someone to come in and teach them what you know. So you're teaching them about, okay, look, this is where your risk is, this is how we see it, this is how we think about it, and you can potentially do X, Y, and Z, and we think, based off of our conversations, X is better than Y and Z because of ABC. And really, breaking that step by step.
Mm-hmm. In your current role, if you were to explain what you do in simple terms, say to a 5-year-old, what would you say that you do?
So, to a 5-year-old, making it simple.
Good luck.
Yeah. So we help companies that invest in certain things. They invest in many countries. I'm trying to keep my language as simple as possible. Trying to get this 5-year-old.
It's tough.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, these people buy things in different countries, and because it's different countries, they have a certain amount of risk. Can I use the word risk? Will the 5-year-old? Yeah. Okay, fine. They'll have a certain amount of risk because of the different currencies that are used in these countries. Oh crap! Currencies going into
but no, that's
a very different territory. But and we help reduce that risk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, fair. So fair. So you help companies that are making investments reduce risk, basically.
Essentially, yeah, exactly. More focus on the market risk, so FX and interest rate.
Yeah.
But mainly FX. Trade is a new product that's actually getting.
And because this is a question that a lot of people always ask. They're always curious about what a day in the life looks like. What time you get in, what time you leave, what you're doing. Obviously, every day differs, I'm sure. But just generically, a day in the life when you were in the office, so not in COVID times.
Yeah. So usually. So do you want both DB
Uh,
and here, or
yeah, why not?
yeah? So DB would be, I would say, get in for around 9 or just before 9,
Mm.
and usually eat desk, and in the morning it would be running reports. We'd have a whole library of scripts and stuff, and we run that. If there's issues, try and deal with that, and that would take up majority of the morning. And then in the afternoon there would be, some senior people will have some questions, and we would actually attend to that. But in London, it was only me dealing with the senior people.
Oh, nice.
We had a team and managing them as well.
Mm.
So they would be in before I would be. So they would do a lot of the, running the scripts and stuff, because I taught them. I was like, yeah, just run it, and I can come in a bit later, just
That's
delegation.
a hustle.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, luckily I've been really fortunate. Like the guys that I worked with. So yeah, like in that sense, it was really, really good, because they took the responsibility on answering the questions that people actually had. Doing a lot of the more deep dives and going into the analysis. So then that would take me up until, say, 7:30 would be the typical leaving time, and then and then out the door. Wouldn't have anything overnight, because it's just like, okay, market's closed, nothing's gonna happen. Yeah, at times you might have an email come through or something, but more than not, you're done by 7:30, and that's it.
Got it. Conscious of your time.
On the other hand, yeah,
Are we?
yeah,
I don't want to take too much of your time, but I'm happy to go on. But I'm conscious of your time.
yeah, good. Yeah,
We good?
yeah, I'm good. Yeah,
Oh, amazing. All right. Sorry. Carry on. Sorry.
yeah. So Validus, again, get in for 9, or maybe just a bit after, because the commute was a lot longer. So say 9:10-ish. And pre-COVID, I was usually finishing again 7 o'clock.
Yeah.
It would be really focused on projects, really looking at where what the different clients are asking and so on, and it was a lot of that focus. But then I brought in the skill set of the Python and all of that. So one thing I realized quickly was the reporting was very manual at Balladus. So I was trying to take that and actually transform that into a much more automated, way, because I personally don't think people should be doing what a computer should be doing.
Yeah, fair.
Because it's just, there's no point, because it's just like, yeah, you can do other stuff, and you can actually do a lot more in the business than actually copying and pasting in Excel. Like that's the worst use of
Poor use of time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But yeah, that's the typical day to day, and then things will come in. You'll get a random email being like, "Hey, can we take a look at this?" And that's just the nature of the job, and yeah.
What would you say, other than, so obviously now you've got the external client interaction, which you didn't have so much in Deutsche Bank. Other than that, what would you say, what do you really enjoy about your job, going into work and doing?
Yeah, no, I enjoy a lot of the data aspect.
Yeah.
And I mean, personally, this has been on the down low. So I've actually got a job offer from a startup, or scale up rather, and I'll be going there as a data analyst. Thank you.
Nice.
So I've been really focused on data. So I did a bit of that at DB. I learned Python there. I used a lot of Tableau and so on, and I tried to bring those skill set over here as well. I enjoyed the client aspect and all of that, but having done both, I think data for me is the way forward.
Yeah.
And I think it's the main thing. It's the largest growing field for the next 5 years. At least that's how I see it. I think getting into that growth early will be very, very beneficial to my career. And I think it's just going to be, I think it puts another layer of problem solving that you don't necessarily get when you're just sitting there on Excel. When you look at big, massive data sets, it's like, okay, you know what? Now you have to really think about, how am I approaching this problem, and how am I really going to break it down? And it's like writing an essay and you're planning, but you're planning code. You're really like, okay, I'm going to plan out every step of the way. What am I doing? And really thinking about that.
That is super interesting. So what, do you start in the next month, or this video will come out Sunday 19th, so will you have started by then, or?
No, I'll be starting a couple weeks after that.
Got it. And so
August,
your last, are you done at Validus?
No, I've got a couple weeks left. Notice period, so yeah.
Okay, fair.
Yeah.
Got it. It's pretty, you're chilling.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, there's a lot of handover stuff to do, but yeah, I mean, it's not as intense as lockdown has been. I mean, lockdown, I mean, everyone's hours just shot through the roof.
Interesting.
Yeah, when people say, oh yeah, you're going to be working from home, and the occasional work from home when it's normal days, it's fine, because you can be like, okay, you know what? I'll do stuff before I go home, and I'll do stuff the day after.
Yeah.
But when you're on lockdown, it's just like things are just constantly just at a level where it's just crazy, because everyone's just having questions, and because everyone's so away, if you have a question for someone, you probably have to wait, say half an hour till they come back to you, give or take. Otherwise you can usually just go by the desk and be like, hey, can you just tell me what you think about this?
It's interesting.
Pros and cons. I mean, you're in the comfort of your own home.
It really is like split right through the middle. I've noticed, like, some people love it, some people just prefer being in the office. It's a lot more convenient.
I've been lucky. I mean, I've got an 8-month-old, so in that sense I've been lucky, because the timing has been like,
I can imagine.
I mean, how old was she? She was about 5 months when this whole thing started.
Wow.
And now she's like pretty much moving and diving around everywhere. It's just like, God. Wow. And I've seen that whole process because I've been at home. It's been fantastic.
It's beautiful, man. Very, in a weird time, it's very fortunate to have,
Yeah. I mean, if there's any positives that have come out of COVID, it's been this for me. Like, for me, it's been, watching her grow and just being able to spend that time that I won't necessarily get. As I said, right? Come in for 9, leave at 7, and my commute was over an hour each way.
And she'll be asleep.
Yeah, exactly. I'll get 2 hours max?
Yeah.
An hour in the morning, an hour in the evening. That's about it.
Yeah. Wow. I've got two or so more questions. One is around outside of work. How do you, like, obviously now you're probably a very busy man. You've got a young one. But how do you normally, keep yourself occupied? How do you spend your time? Any hobbies?
So I've been gymming. Like, even since lockdown, I've got weights and stuff at home, which I've accumulated over the years. But I mean, usually if the gyms are open, I would go to the gym.
Yeah.
So what I would do is normally go in the morning, first thing, wake up. Gyms are open, I'll go like 6. Gym opens at 6, I'll get in, because you can get through your workout a lot quicker. Right now, I've just been, because it's at home, I can just start at, say, 7:15, and then be done by, say, about 8:30, and start the work.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's been my really number one hobby right now.
Yeah.
Obviously, with baby and all, it's just been a bit more like, okay, can't really do a lot of extracurricular type things.
Yeah.
But that just comes with the job description.
Exactly.
Of being a father. But yeah, I used to play cricket a lot as well. But yeah, I was thinking maybe just get in the game this season if there are any that do come up. So maybe, hopefully, if I can get that day pass out, ask the home office, be like, hey, can I go out for a day, please? If I get that approved, it goes through 3 levels of screening and stuff. But once that's done and once that's approved, I think I'll probably go out for a game, just have a laugh. I just think now it's really bringing that competitive aspect out and just really utilizing your energy that you don't necessarily get to use that you
Yeah.
once did, outside of lockdown.
Mm-mm.
Or even just generally when you're working, you use a lot less energy than you do when you're in uni and so on.
Yeah, it's true. Working,
It's just
it's a sedentary lifestyle for the most part, right? You're sitting down
yeah,
a lot.
and
Um,
it's really just channeling your energy because you get tired physically because you're sitting down the whole day.
yeah, which is mad.
But it's not the best way to actually get tired.
Mm.
Is like go actually be physical in one way, shape or form. But yeah, I want to just try and keep up and utilize the energy. And personally, I just think it helps mentally as well.
Yeah,
I've tried not working out, so I went into a patch of working out crazy,
yeah.
and then like for 6 months to say, yeah, 6 to 9 months, I did nothing,
Mm.
zero.
Oh,
And when I started back again, I was like, damn, I'm so much more positive. I can
yeah.
actually feel how I felt emotionally. I can feel the difference in the emotional change as well. And yeah, it's massive.
Very, very powerful.
Yeah.
To wrap up,
Yeah.
any last pieces of advice or any tips for current students or graduates looking to, succeed in their degrees and in the world of work and get into maybe similar fields that you're working in or have worked in?
Yeah. I would say work hard. There's nothing replaces hard work. Research, because there's so many different things out there, and especially with the rise of this, new social media and like you've got so many different things that have come about. Obviously, roles have become redundant, but they've been replaced with these new, crazy roles that you would have never imagined to have existed like 10 years ago.
Yeah.
So I think research, see what else is out there. Your parents will tell you, yes, you have to become a doctor because you're brown, but no, that's not the case, right? There's many different roles out there, and there is a role for everyone. And I think in a job, you will hate some aspects, you will like some aspects, or you'll love some aspects. That's just the nature of the job. Like that is with every single job. There's not going to be anything that you're going to be like, I love this 100%.
Mm.
So yeah, but there's going to be some aspects that you'll just hate, and it will be boring. But you just have to deal with that. And I think last but not least, just have fun. It's a process, and really, I think write down everything that you're going through. Not a journal, but like, okay, how do I sell myself? And biggest thing that I've realized with me is I forget things.
Mm.
Like, oh crap, this will make a really nice point in my promotion prospect. I've just forgotten to write it because I forgot this actually happened. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
not a
yeah.
task that I've forgotten to do.
Mm.
I've completed the task. I've done everything. But because now and the tasks at hand, I've forgotten some stuff that I did 2 months ago, which are much better than what I'm actually doing right now. So
Mm.
I guess write down some key points. Like at the end of the week, just maybe summarize, okay, this week I did this, 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 and this. And believe me, it will be a game changer, because when you come to writing your CV, when you come to actually writing about the skills that you have, or say the personal profile at the top of your CV, you'll just be able to articulate all of that so much better than having to sit down and be like, crap, what does my CV actually need?
Yeah,
So
no,
yeah,
that
that
is
would be my go-to advice.
that
But
is
yeah, just have fun. Have fun.
solid advice. Honestly, I really like that last point. Like, not many people actually say that, but what you said is super important. Like, writing things down, because at times when you need to remember what you've been doing, it's so hard to remember what you've been doing.
Yeah, exactly.
But when you've got it, it helps. Um, if
And then you'll be doing something, right? You'll be just sitting there thinking about something. It's like, yeah, I did this too. And then
exactly,
you're just like scrambling, like, crap, I need to change this thing.
exactly. Before we wrap up, is there
Yeah.
anything you want to shout out? Any, I don't know, any blogs, any websites, anything you've been working on? I'd just like to give this opportunity to the person I'm speaking to kind of, if they've got anything they want to shout out, if there is, if
Ooh.
not.
No, I don't.
Fair.
Yeah, no, I want to, like, personally, I want to actually get involved
Yeah.
with young people a bit more because, as I said, I've been fortunate to learn about these different career paths, and even getting to UCL was a massive challenge right at the
Yeah.
beginning. So I want to try and help people with a similar background
Yeah.
actually, try and improve their chances because, private schools kids are always going to be one hand above the rest,
Exactly.
no doubt.
Yeah.
But why shouldn't people coming from a state school background also deserve that? Why don't they deserve the chance? They do.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
And I want to be able to, I've gotten a lot of advice on the way getting here. I'm not a self-made man. Like, I've just been lucky. It's all
Same.
right place, right time. And I want to try and actually give back in a way,
Mm-mm.
and I think this was one step of many to come. So
Definitely. I really appreciate that. If there's anyone watching this and they're inspired by your story and want to reach out to you, is LinkedIn the best way, or what would?
yeah, LinkedIn, perfect. Yeah, just send me a message. Yeah, if you want to put my email in the description as well, happy to
Amazing.
reach out. Yeah.
I will do that. Let me. What is your email? Just so or you can send it after, right? Just email it.
Yeah, perfect.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Cool. Do you have any questions for me? You don't
Um,
have to have any questions for me. I'd just like to, just in case.
yeah. No. So, how do you see? You were working at Goldman in the
Yeah.
asset management side, and then you left, and you're now fully focused on this, right?
Yeah.
How do you see this progressing for you over the next, two,
Yeah.
3 years, and how do you see the impact changing, or how do
Mhm.
you see the landscape for young people changing?
Yeah. So, I mean, it's been just over 2 years now since I've left GS. And since then, I've focusing on two main things really: entrepreneurship and social mobility.
Yeah,
Um, and it's something I'm really passionate about. Similar story, state school, all of that, and that's where it kind of stems from. You want to help out the people that have similar backgrounds to yourselves, right?
exactly.
Um, and so the YouTube just started off as like just a random project. I thought there's all this knowledge that people in the industry aren't sharing, so let me just share it, one weekly video every week, Wednesday, and that just grew. It's on 40K subs now.
Yeah,
Recently, so a few months ago, I launched a company called the Greatness Company, and the aim
right.
of that is to help high potential underprivileged young people break into world-class companies. And we were looking to raise money we're doing a pre-seed round to launch it in May, and then COVID happened. So it kind of threw a spanner in the works. And so what we've decided to do is push the launch of that and fundraising for that next year, so 2021. So what I'm currently working on is, and this is like I've mentioned it to one or two people, it's literally going to launch in the next month. So I'm working on an app. It's like a mentoring app. But you know
Right.
how, all right, you know how tuition works, tutoring. You
Yeah,
want to get an A in A level maths, you hire someone that's got an A in A
yeah,
level.
yeah.
So it's a mentoring app, but for careers. So if you want to
And
get
I
an,
kid you not, I was having this exact same conversation with a friend last Saturday.
yeah,
I was like, you know what? This will put another layer on tutoring because
yeah,
I mean,
no
yeah,
one's
you get
done
your
it.
grades, but you don't see anything beyond that, right?
Exactly. Like you can, like a lot of students will go on LinkedIn and message 50 people. They'll get one or
Yeah,
two responses, right? But
yeah,
oftentimes people in the industry and students who have internships, they will more than happily advise and speak to people for 30 minutes or an hour if they get paid for it. It just aligns the incentive, right? And
yeah,
so it's creating that tuition model, but for the world of careers. And
exactly.
so that's taking up a lot of my time, and that's going to launch in the next month or so as an app.
You hit the nail on the head. And with an app, it's just like, yeah, put a video interface on it, and boom, done.
Exactly. And so yeah, rather than it being in person, it'll be like this.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
it's an idea I had. Like I was at Goldman and I had this idea, but I didn't know how to execute, and it's taken a long time to get here. But now I think I'm in the right place. I've got the right people in place to kind of
yeah,
hopefully take it forward and leverage the audience that I've built. So like one thing that is powerful is obviously the growth on YouTube, the growth on LinkedIn, all of that, having
yeah,
that audience at hand, which means I can be more targeted in helping, certain like
yeah,
demographic of young people, etc. But that's what's going to be taking up most of my time. I I really enjoy like entrepreneurship. I think you're gonna like really enjoy working in a startup environment. How many
Sure.
people are in the organization?
So this one is slightly bigger than Validus. Validus is about 40 odd people between here
Okay.
and Canada.
Yeah.
But Yobota, so the place that I'm going to, is roughly, if I'm not mistaken, like between 60 and 70.
Okay. Cool. Cool.
I
Cool.
think closer to 60 than 70, but yeah, somewhere around that region.
Are they still in the risk space, or is something completely different using data?
No, they're more focused on challenger banks.
Oh,
So
interesting. Interesting.
yeah, so developing that whole infrastructure for challenger banks, and
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, so massive amount of data there, and
Yeah.
there's a lot of work that can be done there. And this was something that I was thinking about at DB, and just how systems within a big organization are usually very, very terrible.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it's like, okay, there has to be a way to actually come up with an infrastructure that doesn't depend on the physical space that the systems that are the systems taking up. So then why not go into cloud-based service and so on? And I bumped into these guys, and I was like, ooh, that's very, very interesting, and
Mm.
something that I thought about 3-4 years ago.
And that's
But yeah, and it worked out, and yeah, so hopefully
excite,
joining.
exciting times, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I don't want to take too much of your time. I'm conscious we've gone on for 50 minutes and I said 30, so sorry for taking up extra
No,
time.
no, 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 not to worry, not to worry. I
Um,
mean, I'm not going anywhere today anyway, so.
yeah, no, fair, fair, fair. But if if you've got any questions, or if I can help in any way in the future, of like, you've got my contact details, reach out to me whenever
Absolutely.
you want. Always happy to help if I can.
I know for sure. I mean, hopefully once this COVID stuff is over, then we can,
Catch up.
catch up for a coffee or something, and
Definitely.
yeah.
I'd definitely be up for that. Well, all right, perfect. Take care,
Thank
man.
you so much. No, thanks
Thank,
for your time as well.
thank you, and
No, no, appreciate it.
have a good, what is it, evening.
Yeah, you too. You too.
See ya, man. Bye.
Take care. Have a nice weekend as well.
Thanks a lot. You too, man.
Yeah, man. Thanks. Bye.